So now we come to the Germans' construction phase. We can see down here the units in the 1939 scenario available to the Germans to build. Some infantry, quite a lot of infantry, a bit of armour, an airborne unit, naval, air force, and some replacement units. I've got to get a few more of those out. They have varying costs. For each factor, infantry costs 1, so those 3 threes will cost 3 each. Armour, each factor is 2, so those 4 6 armoured bits will cost 8 per counter, and so on and so forth. Naval, it's 3 per factor, so that 9 strength naval will be 27. Now, how many points do they have to spend? What you can see just up here is that their starting BRP, base resource points, are 150. So they have 150 to spend. Carrying some over into the next turn is not a bad thing to do because it increases the base. There is a growth rate on the basis of anything that is unspent. But the only restriction is that you cannot in any one turn in a year spend more than 50% of your BRP. So 1939 takes place over 2 turns. So in each of the turns, autumn and winter, Germany can spend 75 BRPs. So there's a process now to do some sums, a bit of maths, and work out how I'm going to spend those 75 BRPs at this point. So I've made my build decisions. Let's just zoom a little bit closer in on Germany. And what you can see is I've spent, I think it was just under 75 points. I couldn't quite get the maths to work, on a whole bunch of infantry and a certain number of armour. So those are now, they can be positioned anywhere in Germany. Ramped up to obviously attack the Low Countries. If I can get basic resource points in the winter turn, that means that they will be available for Germany's BRP calculation at the start of 1940. So there is a certain imperative to try and push, but whether that's going to be possible, I don't know. But we'll see. I've also built these replacement units very cheaply. We're going to see why when we get to the next phase, but that's the construction phase for the Germans done. So the Germans now come to their strategic redeployment phase, and this is when they can redeploy a number of supplied units. All the German pieces are currently in supply. Moving any distance, the Germans can move 9 units. Other countries have their own values, and they're not subject to interception. They can obviously only move over controlled hexes. Can't pass adjacent to enemy units, so that's all fine. And then there's a whole series of options if you're doing it by sea, and so on and so forth, but I'm not going to worry about that. It's going to be quite simple, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to use 3 initially of my 9, and I'm going to move these replacement units. And what I'm going to do is, because Hungary, Romania and Bulgaria are Axis minor allies, not yet in the war, but German units can move over them. And so if I just scroll back out so we can see, I'm going to SR, strategically redeploy each of these to the capitals of the 3. It doesn't have to be the capitals. In fact, Romania, I may as well do it to Ploiești. Well, let's just do it to Bucharest. This one to Budapest in Hungary, and this one to Sofia, all of them travelling through a series of hexes belonging to allies. Now, why have I done that? Well, basically, what I've managed to do is effectively garrison those countries. And the reason I do this is because as you can perhaps see, there is this dotted red line here, which marks the Soviet German non-aggression pact line, Molotov-Ribbentrop, I think, isn't it? And so long as Germany doesn't attack the Soviet Union cannot attack Germany before 1941. The only exception to that would have been that if these were left ungarrisoned, these minor allies, then the Soviets could have moved in. But with that German garrison in there, the treaty is in force, and the non-aggression between Germany and the Soviet Union holds until 1941, or until the Germans perhaps choose to progress the war earlier than historically they might have done. So I've done that redeployment. I suppose the question is there any reason why I leave any troops over on the East Front? And why I don't simply strategically redeploy and I can't think why, though I worry I'm missing something. Do I need any more? Well, what I could do is I could redeploy this over to here and redeploy this armor unit over to here. So that's 4 of my units. I think for the time being, maybe I don't need armor in the east. So let's do another switch. So I did 3, 4, 5, those 2, 6, 7. Let's bring these air forces, let's read 8, and let's bring this here to 9. There we are, those are my 9 SRs, and I think with that we can pretty much bring the German turn to a close. And as you can see, actually, the complexity of movement and combat is really quite simple. There's some sums to be done around construction of units. I've gone at this very quickly. I'm not a counter, a big mini maxer or whatever the phrase is. So I've just cracked on trying to play this as fast as I can, get a feel for the game, and as I said in one of the earlier videos, some of the bigger complexities are just about relationships between countries and conquered countries and minor powers and allied minor powers, and just keeping that in your head is, in a funny sort of way, perhaps the hardest thing to do, but can always be checked up, kind of situation dependent. Anyway, there we are. That's the end of the German turn. It'll be the Allies next.